All right, welcome back to College Football Addiction. Going to talk a little bit about the Iron Bowl, a little bit about last week too. But Drew, nobody's in a good mood coming into this one. So let's talk about something that's a little more fun. What's the Thanksgiving side that just cannot be not like they cannot be missing from the plate on Thursday?
Well, I'm a big stuffing guy, man. I love me some dressing and some stuffing. I love it. I usually that's about half my plate sometimes because my late grandmother, my dad's mom, she made some of the best, and she would mix her turkey with it though. But it was just really good, really awesome stuff. My mom's always made good dressing. Now we go to my brother's in-laws, and they have a huge spread out in Good Hope, Alabama, just outside of Coleman, and it's always really good. But yeah, man, the dressing for me is A1. That's my go-to. And I am a cranberry sauce person too. I love me some cranberry.
Yeah, see, start out with something that nobody tuned in for, but at least gets our people. Comment if you're in a bad mood about Alabama football right now. Just comment your favorite side for Thursday, and it'll
Right.
immediately put you in a better mood. So, all right, back to the subject at hand. We were talking about a little bit of this beforehand, but it's coming out obviously just a stunner, right? Like nobody would have been shocked if Oklahoma kind of kept the game close and put it all out on the line for a big time opponent. But man, we were both commenting. We both thought Alabama was playing some of their best football of the year. A lot of people, I mean, Alabama was kind of a lot of people's pick to go win it in an SEC that, in the conference, the SEC that nobody really looked dominant. And then to come out and just kind of lay the egg that they did, it's got to be shell shock for DeBoer and the staff and the team and certainly the fan base too.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly shell shock. I mean, it was definitely a stunner to lose to Vanderbilt early, but that was a close game. That was a high scoring contest, and Alabama was down 14-0. If you remember, TJ, really early in the first quarter, and then they rallied, and it was close the rest of the game, nip and tuck, and Alabama just couldn't get a defensive stop. Then they lose a tough one to Tennessee where they lead at halftime, but the Tennessee offense rallied in the second half, ran the football well. Alabama still had their chances, no question about it, but couldn't ever get over the hump either there. And they led 17-14 into the fourth quarter, but just Tennessee just asserted their will and won that football game. But it was back and forth. The center with the Oklahoma game was Alabama led 3-0. Was very close to leading 7-0, but we all know Ryan Williams stepped out. Oklahoma took tied it at 3, and then it looked like it was going to be a 3-3 game heading into the locker room, but the Sooners were able to run the football and get up 10-3. Even that, though, at halftime, I still felt like if Alabama made the necessary adjustments offensively and defensively, they could rally and win the game because this is not a potent Oklahoma offense, but they came out in the second half, looked like they were trying to adjust on offense. Sheridan started running the ball with the backs more conventionally. They were having success. Milrow hit a short throw to Kobe Prentice to move the chains, but Alabama was their own worst enemy. Prentice misses a block on the next play. Milrow doesn't. In my opinion, should have. He assumed that the block was going to be made and assumed that the play was going to be open. It should have been a situation where you never assume anything. You look and you throw that ball away, and or you just take off on a broken play. But he decides to throw it anyway. It's intercepted. It leads to a touchdown, and then you compound things by basically having PTSD and remembering the Texas game last year where Milrow played so poorly that he got benched the next week. He just totally telegraphs a swing pass out in the flat, and it ends up being picked off, and then with those back-to-back turnovers, it was just back-breaking because this is a Sooner offense that was moving the ball and running it with their QB Jackson Arnold, but they still hadn't put the game away. And then when you give them that kind of help, and it's 24-3 middle third quarter, even though there's a lot of time on the clock, this is an Alabama team. The one thing I'll say is it's twofold. It gets on the coaches and the players. Coaching wise, I haven't seen them make a ton of adjustments in the 3 games where that they've lost, even though they had a small lead against Tennessee. It just seemed like offensively they came out, struggling. Because remember, in the Tennessee game, they got 3 turnovers, but the offense just could never get into a rhythm. They were never able to snap out of it. And then defensively, it was just surprising that Kane Womack didn't load the box. But I will say, if you go back and look at it, and some of it was because Oklahoma didn't have to take any chances, but Alabama slowed them down in the second half. But the biggest thing is, and this is on a lot of the players, and especially Jalen Milroe, they just haven't responded well to adversity. Against with Nick Saban at the helm, they always seem to respond to adversity and rally. This is a new staff, completely different new systems, but Alabama just hasn't seemed to. Besides that one play against Georgia where they rallied to win a game, and then Xavier Brown got the interception. In the other three games where they faced adversity, and in that Georgia game, that was just a situation where they only trailed for about a minute's worth of clock time, and they made an explosive play. When they've trailed against Tennessee, they haven't been able to rally. They never could get the lead against Vanderbilt. Once Tennessee got the lead, it was pretty much over. And same way with Oklahoma, they just have not shown a propensity to be able to overcome a bad start, or if a team has done a nice job of scheming them up. That's my big question. I think I was on with you before LSU. My big question was, can they win on the road in the SEC? And they proved they could do that. Now they have to prove, can you respond to adversity? And some of this adversity now is just simply so many questions now about this season. A lot of the adversity is you're very likely not going to be in the playoff. How motivated are you going to be to play against your biggest rival? Because, as you know, you cover Florida State, Florida. That's a huge rivalry. Michigan, Ohio State's a huge one. This is a huge one in my state, Alabama, Auburn, the Iron Bowl. So, and they have not lost at home in the since 2010, the comeback game where Auburn went undefeated and won the national championship. Alabama's really dominated Auburn at home in the last 6 meetings, but the vibe has completely changed because Auburn finally won a close game, one that I didn't think they would win. I thought they would lose a close one against A&M, and then Alabama lays a turd against Oklahoma. So now there's a lot of questions going into this game with Auburn coming in trying to get to a bowl game. They're trying to get bowl eligible, and then Alabama just trying to finish strong under Kalen DeBoer and take some momentum into next week's signing period, and then whatever bowl game you end up playing in.
Yeah, I wonder. It almost feels like the intensity, the questions around this game, especially from the Auburn perspective, like have ratcheted way up. Like I don't know, any weird things happen in rivalry games, right? Like Auburn shouldn't have been in it last year, right? But
Right.
and so there was always a chance, but now Auburn's confidence has to be through the roof, and Alabama's confidence has to be like, man, are we going to win this thing at home? Now they've been good at home; they've played better at home this year. I get it, but like there's got to be I don't know, is there a pretty big concern level around this game, or is some of the air taken out of the rivalry because of the way that last week went, or what's the mood of the fan base? What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning into College Football Addiction. Happy Thanksgiving week. Hey, no ad in this video, but do me a quick favor. If you're watching, if you appreciate the content, if you appreciate the guests, if you like the teams, if you don't like the teams, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you. Hope your families have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thank you again for tuning in to College Football Addiction.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a lot of apprehension now and doubt. The funny thing is, though, there's usually not a lot of trash talk between these two schools before the game. And even though Auburn, is 5-6, they are coming off their best win of the year. And I'm going to tell you what, that was a very interesting media day yesterday on the Plains. I mean, there was a lot of talk coming out of the Auburn camp about, coming in and dominating Alabama. Cam Coleman basically referenced that, said that, and he was mostly talking about winning it for his seniors that are in, because Auburn has a lot of seniors that have not beaten Alabama, and he's like, this is going to be our last time together. It could be, and he's like, we just want to go in there and we want to dominate them in their house. And then, Demarcus Riddick, very good young linebacker, very fast. He's had a really good second half of the year. Basically said, that Ryan Williams didn't mean anything to him. He didn't think he was a great player, and that, Jalen Milroe is not faster than me. He's never going to get out of the box. And the biggest thing he said is, I've never lost a rivalry game. And he said, and I'm not losing this one. He said, I'm never going to lose to Alabama. I mean, he said that he's never even played in an Iron Bowl, and he's putting, bulletin board material all over. The most I've seen in a long time, honestly. I mean, Nick Saban never liked freshmen to talk to the media for an obvious reason. And then he always wanted his guys to refrain from any kind of bulletin board material before a game. And honestly, Nick Saban's teams won at such a high clip, you never really heard a lot of bulletin board stuff coming from the other side. They just wanted to go out and play, and if they won, you can talk after the game. So it's been a while since we've seen this. I mean, I'll just say this: if you're an Alabama football player and you're listening to this, and with all the social media this today in this day and time, I don't know how you're not motivated now. I mean,
Sure.
like you said, there was going to be some people, that are down around the program, people doubting things, the players being distraught because they're not going to be very likely in the college football playoff. But again, Alabama's got 19 seniors. This is a senior night. It meant a lot to Oklahoma as they took it out on Alabama on their senior night. I would think you'd want to take it out on your biggest rival and send them home for a four straight losing season and a four straight win in this series, which hasn't happened very often. The last time it did was when Auburn won six in a row from 2002 to 2007. Alabama hasn't won four in a row, I think, since the 70s. So this would be a golden opportunity for the Crimson Tide to win four straight. And if you're an Alabama football player, whether you're likely going to go into the NFL draft like a Tyler Booker after this season, or a Jihad Campbell, or if you're one of those 19 seniors, I would think you'd be super motivated to want to play against Auburn after they're basically, I'll quote Nick Saban, pissing all over your ground, saying they're coming in and going to mark their territory, and they haven't won there since these kids were in elementary school. So
Yeah.
if I were Alabama, I would be wanting to strap up my helmet, and I would be wanting to show Jamarcus Riddick that, son, this ain't high school. I mean, you're playing in the biggest rivalry in college football, and if I'm Tyler Booker, I'm gonna put my face mask in your sternum, and you're gonna feel me the rest of the game.
As an outsider, I love the trash talk, but man, you got to go back it up and
Maybe he
doing
can. I mean,
it.
I've
Yeah.
seen it. I've seen Antonio Langham do it when I was younger. He talked trash about LSU and Tennessee, backed it up against Miami, because Miami was talking a lot of noise before the national championship game. So again, but it makes it spicy. It's going to make it spicier on Saturday afternoon, no doubt about it. And this would be big for Kalen DeBoer because it would give him a 9-win season, which is ties Frank Thomas for the most for a first-year Alabama coach ever. And it gives you a chance to win a 10th game, keep that streak alive going into a bowl. And the biggest thing, I'm sure you guys have been talking about it on your show a lot, the signing period is next week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you want to finish the regular season strong, hold on to your recruiting class, and then, of course, you start the transfer portal situation and start building your roster for next year. But again, the biggest thing is you want to create some momentum for yourself and get a win in a big rivalry game.
What's the? We'll ask you this, and then we'll wrap up here in a sec. But what's the matchup, or what does Auburn do that maybe worries you the most? It looks like Thorne's maybe coming on a little bit more. Maybe he's slightly better than Jackson Arnold at a few things. But what about Auburn worries you the most from the Alabama perspective?
Well, I mean, you just look at it statistically, TJ. Alabama's not been great against the run most of the year, and Jarquez Hunter's a stud. I mean, he's a first team All SEC level back. He's got 1,100 yards rushing. He just did a nice job going for about 130 against Texas A&M and 3 touchdowns. He's an outstanding back. So I don't see Alabama completely stopping him, but they've got to find a way to contain him and make him earn all his yards. I mean, seriously, you've got to find a way to do something schematically, load the box, challenge your guys physically, because that's the thing that was disappointing. Alabama had been playing physical football the last several weeks, but I didn't think they played nearly as physical against Oklahoma. I thought they got out physical, and now you've got to out physical Auburn. You've got to try to contain Jarquez Hunter. Don't let Auburn control the clock and run the football, because if they do, it will make Peyton Thorne's job easier. He can use his legs and play off of Jarquez Hunter, and then with the RPOs, they'll have a chance to hit some big plays to Keandre Lambert Smith, who's had an amazing year, made a great catch to win that game against Texas A&M, and then Cam Coleman's really come on the last 2 weeks. So, but the key to it is it's really simple. I mean, it was the reasons I gave for them to beat Oklahoma, and when I think I was on your show to beat LSU, is Alabama's got to outrush Auburn. They've got to control the ball more than the Tigers do. They've got to win the turnover battle. and they didn't do either of those against Oklahoma. And then Milroe has to play well, and then Milroe did not play well at all. He played probably his worst half of football with those 3 picks against Oklahoma since he's been with the Crimson Tide. So it's really simple. They've got to get a better game out of Milroe, and they've got to do a better job of scheming stuff up on both sides of the ball. They've got to run the football and be multifaceted with it. And then they've got to force Auburn into some turnovers because Auburn's been doing a better job protecting the ball, but Alabama's got to force them into some turnovers inside Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. I tend to, I don't know if I've said this to you before on here or not, but some of these big time matchups and some of these big conferences almost remind me of the NFL, where you're never quite as bad as you were last week. You're never quite as
Right.
good as you were last week. And I do think, just as an outsider looking in, I think Alabama wins this thing. I do think they rebound. I don't necessarily know if I think they cover or not. I mean, for my sake, I hope they don't, just so that it's a more fun rivalry game. But I don't want to see a 2 touchdown win. But yeah, I do think Alabama wins. I think they come out and play a little bit better. I think Milroe plays a little bit better. And, Auburn has struggled with the turnovers. They've been a little bit better recently, but I could see coming on the road in this one, them giving it away a couple of times. So are you kind of the same way? Do you think Alabama ends up squeaking it out, winning in this thing?
Yeah, I don't think they'll cover. I think it's still 11.5. I've been a little bit surprised at that. I hope Vegas knows something. I'd like to see Alabama win by double figures, and it'd be. My station's an Alabama affiliate. I don't hide the fact I'm an Alabama guy, but certainly I respect the rivalry. But I think Auburn's playing better, and I think Alabama. It won't be easy, but I think they'll find a way. I think they'll win it 28-20 is what I'm thinking. I think they'll win it by one score and continue the streak in Tuscaloosa and get Kalen DeBoer off to a good start because this is a very important game for him as well. Nick Saban didn't sweep the two rivalries his first year. He beat Tennessee soundly, but he lost to Auburn. Kalen DeBoer's already lost a tough one to Tennessee. He needs to beat Auburn to give the fan base some optimism going into year two and not to have a bad taste in their mouths and just to continue to have an unbeaten year at home. I think would be big for the Tide and give them some momentum going into next week for the signing period.
Drew, I appreciate you, man. Where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
Absolutely. They can find me at Drew D977 ESPN. For my X account, our station is 977 ESPN. If they want to check out Talking Ball, we're 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, 977ESPN.com. And our SoundCloud page, 97.7 ESPN The Zone, was where we put all our content. But we always appreciate it, TJ, and we wish you and all your viewers and listeners, a happy Thanksgiving. And we always appreciate the opportunity to talk some football with you.
Yeah, man, it's always a good time. Happy Thanksgiving and good luck this weekend.
Thank you, sir.